This is Sean with Voices of Racing, and we're going to be saving some race chasers stories. And I'm speaking with a gentleman that actually helped form the organization, Barry Hindman. Barry, how you doing today, and where are you located?
I'm doing just great. I'm located in Indianapolis, Indiana, up on the north side.
All right, so one of the goals for this whole thing is so the race chasers themselves, if they were involved with teams, if they were drivers, if they were fans, that they can save their stories from their points of view. And we're going to walk through some images in your life involved in racing. But if you could just give me a little bit of background, where are you from and what's been your industry as you've kind of progressed through your career in life?
Okay. I'm originally from northern Indiana, a little town called Argus, Indiana, and went to Ball State, got a degree in marketing, worked in Kokomo, Indiana for Continental Steel for 7 years, then moved to Michigan, worked for another steel company. And from Michigan, I went to Rockford, Illinois, from Rockford, Illinois to Pontiac, Illinois to run a plant. And I've always been a race fan ever since I was a little guy. Like the first time I went to a race, I was about 4 years old. And I think it was in Macon, Illinois, went with my mom and my grandfather. But the thing that really took my trigger was going to the Speedway in 1957. We went down there for time trials, and I believe on that day, Tony Bettenhausen was driving one of the Novis, and Novi has always been a favorite car of mine, and Tony Betten's always been a favorite driver along with Gary, Merle, and Tony.
Do you remember who was also running that day?
Oh boy, there were. No, I don't. There were during 57. Well, let's see. Pat O'Connor, I think, was running that day. And he was a favorite of my brother's, and that was a year prior to him getting killed. But I can't remember all. I remember Johnny Rutherford being there for some reason. No, he wasn't. That's not in his time frame. But can't remember any other drivers other than Tony.
It's all right. So when you decided to form Race Chasers, I know at the beginning it was just a few individuals.
Right.
You've grown it to hundreds of people to be able to enjoy the events monthly.
Right.
And we're going to try to create a whole new way for them to hear each other's stories and be able to pass them down to their kids and next generations. And we got connected by the answers. They hired my company essentially to interview almost 50 people in the race industry about all their favorite memories of the answers. And Alancer Jr. and the Vintage Indie group that Mike Lashmitt essentially founded. You had a Race Chasers event at the Delara Car Factory back in May, and I was there, and Mike McCulley actually went through college with his two sons, so he's kind of been instrumental in bringing this together. So here's one of the first shots of you, and this is when you got to run a two-seater at IMS, and this is back in 05, is that right?
Yes, I believe that's when it was. It was probably the very hottest day that ever existed in August, and they were late getting us all out. But beside the point, that was a lot of fun. I mean, it really opens up your eyes as to the forces involved when these guys are running 200-mile-an-hour laps. We didn't get that high. We only did 185, but it was very interesting. It I had my whole family there pretty much, my daughters and a couple grandkids. And but yeah, that was a lot of fun. My wife bought that for me for a Christmas gift, and great time. And
All right, so well, go ahead. I was going to say, here's a couple other quick shots of
sure.
you out there on that day.
Right.
And here's a shot of you coming out, getting ready for it. Just go back to just the experience itself. as you
Okay.
were going around the track, just what was the G forces like, and just what was that whole experience? How would you explain to somebody that's never been there?
Well, it, like I said, the G forces in turns 1 and 3 were tremendous. It was hard to imagine how they can go 200 laps and be putting up with all the G's. That's why those guys are in such good shape. But when I first got in there, we first took off. I had the helmet on, and they have 2 handles there in the back of the driver, and then there's a big red button in between these 2 handles. So if you chicken out, you can push the button, and theoretically the guy will slow it down. But I didn't do that. But anyway, coming out of there, started hyperventilating a little bit, and I said, "Yeah, you gotta settle down." And so then got into the ride, got up to speed, and on probably the last lap, I'm trying to get a feel for how quick I was going. And I'm trying to think, I need to see some marker point. So we were on the back stretch, so I looked up and I thought, oh, we've got fence posts up there. I can look at that. And let me tell you, those fence posts were going by pretty quick. And those were the impressive things about it. And the people that run the 2-seater do a great job. They're always checking the car. They're very safety conscious. And if anybody gets a chance to do it, because you'll remember it forever, literally.
All right, so here's a shot of one of your friends that's kind of giving you some motivation as you're running in this Corvette up at Winchester. Is that right? And what year was this?
This probably 2010, 2011, someplace in that neighborhood. And I became friends with a fellow that worked for Astral that belongs or used to belong to Charlie Shaw, the guy that owns Winchester Speedway. But I was doing business with one of these guys, and he was a fanatical racer, Kurt Doherty. And we started talking, and I was telling him about race chasers. And he said, "Well, hey, why don't you bring your gang out to Winchester, and we'll do a meal for you, and you guys can run around the track a little bit." Okay, yes, we will do that. And the first time we did it, we were a little apprehensive. We didn't want anybody to get in trouble, but we've done it 2 other times since. Nobody's gotten in trouble. We've had a heck of a good time out there. And the gentleman you saw that was standing by the wall, that's John Noggle. He was the other founder, he was co-founder of Race Chasers. And he was.
Is John still around? Where's John located?
No, John passed away a couple, 3 years ago. And we lost him. One unique thing about John is he was diabetic, and he had a pin that Eli Lilly gave him for using their insulin for 50 years. And I always thought that was kind of crazy. That's a long time to be on insulin. But
all right, so I've got one final question about this. How fast did you get the 2-seater going that day at IMS? And then also for Winchester, how fast did you get your vet going?
Okay, the 2-seater ride was 185, 186, and yeah, you could tell you run some speed. At Winchester with the vet, really kind of a spooky place. The first time I did this, you come out on the track and it seems like your balance or equilibrium gets all screwed up. I mean, it kind of messes with your mind. But, I got up to about 75 going into the corners. And my biggest fear was folding up a piece of suspension on my right front and hitting a wall and having to explain it to my insurance agent. But that didn't happen. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
All right, so here's a shot of the last made Novi at IMS,
Yep.
and it was built by Greg Weld in '65. Is that right?
No, Greg Weld was the driver.
He was the
Greg had,
driver. Okay, got it. So tell me a
yeah.
little bit of backstory about this photo and just why you'd like to showcase it.
Well, like I said earlier, I'd always been a Novi fan from when we went down there the first time. And we've always rooted, my brother and I, we always rooted for the Novi. And it was always kind of they never won a race. I think the best finish they had was a fourth, but it was a major horsepower engine. But Greg Weld, he was a USAC sprint car champion, I believe in '65, and I think this picture is taken in '66 at MIS. It's a four-wheel drive front engine car, if you will. It's a V8 overhead cam with a centrifugal supercharger on it, as opposed to a turbo. But yeah, just really a neat car, and I try to find as many pictures as I can of Novi's, and it's got a long story behind it.
Let's let the viewers just kind of take a look at it for a second. And you said this was at Michigan International Speedway
No, this was at MIS.
at IMS, at
Yes.
Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Gotcha,
Right.
gotcha. So I'm going to show a shot that it essentially looks like you're relaxed more than anybody in the stands, even though there's nobody behind you. And where exactly is this? And your mustache looks great, by the way.
Well, thank you. This is at Phoenix International. Boy, this had to be around 96 or 95. My wife at the time, we took a trip out to go to the Copper World at Phoenix International Raceway, and this was, I don't know. I remember we got on a plane in Chicago to fly out there, and it was colder than all get out. Then when we got there, it was, like sudden spring. But yeah, I'm sitting there relaxing, enjoying the views. This particular race, they don't do it anymore, but it was a lot of fun. They would have USAC midgets, USAC Silver Crown cars, a local stock car association run, and they also ran the super modifieds there, the big block cars that have the engines set on the side in towards the inside of the to the left of the driver. So yeah, just bringing in the rays and enjoying them, and that was a lot of fun.
Well, you definitely have the cool fan look going on, but here's a shot of a whole bunch of fans in the stands. So if you can point out what's the hat and the shirt of what you're wearing so that people can really see where you're at.
Okay. This is at Kokomo Speedway, Kokomo, Indiana. By the way, Kokomo is my favorite track. And this is for, I think, SmackDown. They have a 3-day event up there. And this had to be, oh, shoot, maybe 2015, 15 or 17, someplace in there. And this picture is taken by John Mahoney of the famous Crucian Mahonies. And he was up on the flag stand taking pictures. And I yelled at him. I says, "Don't fall out of the cage." So he turned around, knew who I was, took pictures of us. I'm in the center of the picture there with the visor. The guy to the left of me is John Noggle again. He's just in his sunglasses there. He's got the red hat. And then next to them is Debbie and Brian Smith. They're real good friends of mine. They're fans from they live in Brownsburg, and we get together and sit with them and have a good time.
All right, so let's let the viewers just kind of take a nice long look at this, and you guys enjoying yourself in the stands. We're going to be going to another shot here of kind of multiple images. I know that this is at IMS. The track shots on underneath the it looks like the overhang there. Do you have any idea about what year that was? And then also the pics of the people hanging out, if you could kind of explain that as well.
Okay. Yeah, the pictures of IMS, that's really from where I sit for the race. I just wanted to give everybody an idea of where I'm sitting. And it's in Grandstand E. It's the next to last row in the lower deck, and stupendous seats. I get it through a friend of mine over in Illinois, and I tell you, I think it's 25, 30 years that we've been doing this. They get 40 tickets every year, and then they saw them off to the crowd or to our group. It used to be the father that owned the trucking or a trucking business where I got the tickets. He had tickets in all four corners at one time, and then he'd give them out to his customers. So, but that's just that's what it is there. And
then you got the shot with all of the people on the basically at the different races. What tracks are those, and who are those people in those shots?
Okay, the top two, I believe, were at the fairgrounds in Indianapolis. We kind of had a group there. I don't know how many people. I mean, they were all over the country, from all over the country. And we called ourselves the Over the Wall Gang. And we had hats made up and T-shirts and stuff. And we'd get together every May, and we'd tailgate and go to races and party together. And what started my connection to this was there was a gentleman, his name's Bill Walters, and he was sitting behind me at a practice day, oh shoot, in 95, let's say. And we struck up a conversation, and the place was packed. I think it was Carb Day or something. And we're still friends to this day. He comes down, well, not any longer, but he used to be an observer out at the Speedway, and he gave that up. But, I wanted to show that. I mean, the number of friends that I've made through the years is just been fantastic. The guys down at the bottom, that's probably, maybe 2,000. And that's just a bunch of people out in the parking lot at Kentucky Speedway. And we all just kind of hit it off. I think everybody was cooking out, tailgate, because I think the race was at night. And it's just, just a bunch of us getting together.
Well,
and that's one.
I was going to say, let's let the audience kind of take a nice long look at it. And what else did you want to say to add just to the details of it?
Well, I made a lot of friends through racing, and it's been pretty doggone interesting. I never thought I'd get to know some drivers, or that was I always looked up to the drivers, and they wouldn't talk to me, but they do, and they're human like everybody else. And I've been very fortunate to get hooked up with John and do the race chaser thing and start that and get that going. And that's really opened up a lot of doors for not only myself, but a lot of other people.
And here's a shot of another Johnny Parsons. He said he was working the crowd. And about what year was this? And this was at IMS. And I know you mentioned Poncho Carter also was in the shot or involved. So just kind of give the backstory.
Okay, what this was a let's see, the year 99, 2000, someplace in there. And the Speedway had an interview session or panel discussion going on back in the plaza. And I think at that particular time, Pancho and a couple other drivers, I can't recall who they were, but JP was the guy, Johnny Parsons was the guy who was running around with the mic. And if anybody wanted to ask a question, pull up your hand. Well, I'm full of all kinds of questions. So I got to be on the big PA system and ask a question of Pancho Carter.
All right, so Cody Swanson, he is the current, I believe he's won like 5 Silver Crowns at this point.
A
maybe
lot.
6, maybe 6. He's kind of the hottest young driver for his whole bracket. And where was this when you were with Cody?
Well, this is at Terre Haute when the Silver Crown cars ran, and I was right after Cody was our guest for Race Chaser, and you can't ask for a much nicer guy. I mean, he has been friendly to me every time I see him, and just a great individual. And I wish he had an IndyCar ride. If anybody's out there got a couple million you want to spare, put that guy in there, because he's top drawer.
All right, so who would you say are some of your favorite drivers and why?
Well, of course, AJ Foyt has always been at the top of my list. The Bettenhausens, they've always been at the top of my list. I loved watching Gary drive sprint cars. I mean, that man had to be fearless. I don't know. There's with today's people, I like Dixie, and I like Ed Carpenter. And there's a lot of young guys coming up through the sprint car midget avenue that I think are pretty special people. We've got Buddy Kofold. He's just a young kid, probably 19 years old. He's got a bright future. I like rooting for him. Then another guy that's young and a comer is Logan Seavey. He just won the Silver Crown race at DuQuoin here a few days back. Like Johnny Rutherford, like the Unsers. That pretty much covers it.
So you brought the Unsers up again. I just want to let them know that if they want to check out Mario and Michael Andretti's and Doug Bulls and Paul Page's, all of their memories of these top racing legends and the biggest winning family at the Indianapolis 500, it's unserstories.com. But just to kind of touch on again what we're going to be doing for the Race Chasers groups, besides stuff at their events and them being able to tell a little bit of stories at the events themselves, but doing their life stories and love of racing. What do you think about this? And do you think that this is a good thing for the guys in general to hear from each other's stories and pass it on to their future generations?
Yeah, I think it's very important. I mean, a lot of people that come to Race Chasers we're an older crowd. We're trying to figure out how to get some young people there. But the memories and the stories that some of these people have, it's and I can't see how they remember the years where things have happened. But one thing I want to comment on Bobby Unser. We had him for a Race Chaser. It was during the month of May. And we were packed to the gills. I don't know how many. We had a good 50 people at that. And boy, he had the stories. And listening to Bobby, he invented about everything there was. And he did a lot of research on ground effects. And he was very proud of that, and made for some good stories. But, yeah.
Well, that one of the funniest stories I heard about Bobby is that on his airstrip in Chama, New Mexico, that every New Year's Day they'd have snowmobile runs between Allenser Senior, Allenser Junior, and Allenser the Third, and how Bobby would be renegade driving and running all over the runway, trying to mess with them, and them also doing some crazy stuff up in the mountains. So,
Yeah.
dive into some backstory stuff. You can go to that AllenserStories.com. But Barry, I look forward to helping save the stories of the race chasers and their favorite memories of the racing industry. And I look forward to the road ahead. And I thank you for your time today, and just stay on the line.
All righty. Appreciate your time and efforts as well to promote Race Chasers. It's a great group. This is going to be interesting. How all this is going to come together. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to
I
be
am
very,
too.
very cool.
I am too. All right. I'm going to close this one out and just stay on the line.